control resources. So in this particular process, we're focused on making sure that, you know, if we booked a conference room, that it stays booked for us. If we had a lease on a building and we leased it for a year because we thought our project was going to complete in 10 months, but we just found out it's going to be extended for another 4, then we have to go back and make sure that we get more money and negotiate that lease. If we had resources that we've hired, maybe consultants, contractors, and we need them a little bit longer than we thought, this process would do that. Or on the flip side, we need to let them go, or we need to check their performance. We need to say, hey, here's the contract, here's your performance. It is not meeting the letter of the contract, right? So that's the whole purpose of this particular process, is to look at all of our resources, physical and people, and to determine if we're utilizing them efficiently, if we have enough, are they going to remain available, right? So we want to make sure that we have the right resources at the right place at the right time and in the right quantity. In your line of work, most of you, this is just general operations, right? You can see how a lot of what we do in project management are many operations to satisfy some goal that's temporary and unique. So even then, we have to do the same thing. We have to make sure we have the right resources, right? And this is the final process in this resource knowledge area. So this is where we want to make sure that we have the folks and we've documented what we're using. Right? A lot of times we fail to do that. We'll say, okay, we have a plan and we know we need this. And then whatever this is, we'll utilize it. And we may utilize it 90% here, 95% there, 80% this time, 70% that time, but we don't always document that information, right? And so this process is saying, hey, go ahead and make sure you do that. Document how you're using those resources. And back here, just want to mention, this particular process is focused on the coordination of physical resources, right? Not necessarily team members. We're not, in this control resources, we're not using this process to say, hey, team members, you need to be here or you need to be there. That's more in stakeholder engagement. So remember that, people, we engage people and we control resources. Now, that's not to say that we're not able to go to a vendor or supplier or a staffing agency and look at the contract, but that's not a person per se. That's a contract. That's I'm paying a fee and I need a service. It just happens to be a person providing the service. So when you see questions on exam that talk about moving people around or, getting people to do things, that's engagement. That's stakeholder engagement. All right, so generic outputs, work performance information, that comes from the data. That's us turning that data into work performance information. We need contracts as well, because again, if we have agreements with staffing agencies, but also leasing. I mentioned leasing. We could have machines, large machines that we've leased, and we'll analyze the data. You see analysis from PMI. Do you remember what that means for them?
Double check.
Double check, measure twice, right? So look at our analysis, double check your alternatives of resources, right? Double check the cost benefit analysis of using those resources. Double check what the line is doing when it comes down to the trend of those resources. So PMI is the more you start to look at the language of this, the more you recognize that you do this on a daily basis. Now you just have a term for it. You've been doing these things in your work. Now you know. Problem solving. Did we ever think that would be a technical term? Right? You've been problem solving all your lives. So that's the idea there. And then interpersonal and team skills. This is also your ability to negotiate and influence people. Right? So there's a part of that as well. So we see the summary of where the resources are, how are we using them, what's their performance. We'll take the data that they provide us and we'll turn that into work performance information. And then we may request change because of it. Like, okay, I think we need a more senior resource here. The PM must diligently update the project management plans and documents with info reflecting how resources are being managed. And this is true. So we will update our approach if we need to. the more resources that are on your project, the more you may have to fine tune your approach to how you meet, to how you gather the team, to how you train them, to how you have team building exercises. So you would update your approach there. And then of course, you're gonna update some documents, right? Just by simply writing down the name of a new team member, you're gonna update a document. So these are always potential and they happen in a myriad of ways, but luckily for you on exam, you just have to remember a project document gets updated. You don't necessarily have to say, oh, it was the issue log and the assumption log and a physical resource. It's just that, nope, we'll update our project documents. All right, so we take the plan and OPAs. We need to take OPAs. Notice how we haven't been taking that into account a lot. You know, OPAs and EEFs, and the reason for that is because we built those into the plan. So now when we're checking our work, we're just checking. We don't really need to take those things into account, but every once in a while we will. And in this case, you know, there may be a policy for how we escalate, you know, issues that we have with the people that are on our project, or even how we escalate issues that we have where we have contracts with other companies. It may not be appropriate for you as the acting PM to, or even whatever role that you're playing, to reach out directly to that vendor. Maybe you need someone from purchasing or legal to do it, right? So, you know, we'll take those OPAs into account. The data, right, provided continuously as actual work is completed by the team, right? You direct and manage project work. You're using the team members to, you know, do what they do. They're the subject matter experts, so they give you the data, right? And you also take any documents. And then you'll analyze, you'll do some problem solving, figure out, you know, why things are happening the way they are, right? So you look at, and then you'll say, can I do something different? Alternatives analysis. And if I do, what would happen? Measure the performance, all of this stuff, you know, problem solving.